Hello, I'm Bob Mayer, and this is part of my Survival and Disaster series. This is about a disaster in our history from which we can learn a lot of lessons. It's the St. Francis Dam disaster. It's one of the greatest engineering disasters of the 20th century. What I'm going to cover is the cascade events that lead up to the actual dam breaking. This is William Mulholland. A lot of people have heard of, Mulholland Drive. He's the one who brought water to Los Angeles, but this dam breaking was his responsibility and his fault. So we'll cover what he did wrong here. Every disaster ends up with 7 events. I call them 6 cascade events leading up to number 7, which is disaster, which is the rule of 7. And usually inside of that, one of them is human error. So thus you can prevent most disasters. So that's the reason I wrote the Great Disasters book, which covers 21 of the great disasters. This is one of them. So let's walk through what went wrong here and how it could have been prevented. The facts: just before midnight on 12 March 1928, the St. Francis Dam failed. The surge of water went down the valley, went all the way to the Pacific Ocean. Took quite a while to get there. They don't know how many people died. They never recovered all of the bodies, but at least 600 people died. Here's where the dam's located, a little bit north of Los Angeles. You can still find remnants of it up there. Here's the timeline. Mulholland arrived in Los Angeles in 1877. He started working as a ditch digger, basically. The old, the world always needs ditch diggers. But 8 years later, he's superintendent of the water company there. He supervised the building of the Los Angeles Aqueduct, which still supplies most of the water for Los Angeles. 1924, if you've seen Chinatown, the water wars begin. In August of 24, construction of the St. Francis Dam begins. It's completed in 2 years and starts to fill up. Let's get more specific on the disaster. On 12 March 1928, at 10:30 in the morning, the dam keeper notices a new leak in the face of the dam. He calls Mulholland, who drives up, inspects it, and says there's no immediate danger. That night, 11:57 and 30 seconds, the dam fails. By 5:30, the water finally reaches the Pacific Ocean. Think of that. It took 5.5 hours for the water to make it from that dam all the way to the ocean, carrying with it debris and a lot of bodies. So what was the first problem? Well, Mulholland had no formal training or education. I mean, he wasn't an architect. He wasn't an engineer. He figured things out along the way. He had a lot of practical experience, but no formal training. He built the Los Angeles Aqueduct, which is still used. His doctorate reads he broke the rocks and brought the river to the thirsty land. But think about that. Would you hire somebody who has no training to build a dam? Yeah, it is kind of important that you have a formal background in the things. I mean, yes, we can teach ourselves a lot of things, but it's sort of like looking at a YouTube video and going, oh yeah, now I'm going to build a dam because I watched a YouTube video on it. Bad choice of location, which was suspected but not acted on, and exemption from regulation. He checked the area and he noticed a cyst, but Los Angeles was exempt from California's dam safety law. They needed water so badly. And Mulholland didn't seek the opinions of other engineers. There were other reports that said, don't build the dam here. He didn't listen to those. Nature always wins. You can't defeat nature. Many disasters, we always try to overcome nature, but it does win. Cascade 3. Mulholland had a history of failure, and his ego was rather large. In 1918, one of his dams near San Francisco, which he had supervised, collapsed. A visiting engineer wrote that Mulholland's work was sloppy and his construction techniques slipshod and crude. He believed that Mulholland was so conceited he believed himself immune from criticism. Of course, naturally, that engineer was ignored. The flip side of burning admission is the danger of hubris. Sort of like when I talk about Custer. He had great success in the Civil War. The flip side of that, though, is you believe yourself bulletproof. He did the infamous pull yourself up by the bootstraps, but you can't pull yourself up by your bootstraps if you think about it. He was not a team player, though. He didn't like listening to input from other people. Cascade 4, the California water wars. This Mulholland had no control over. They needed water. When he opened up the aqueduct, he just said, there it is, take it. Well, there were people upstream where that water was coming from who weren't too happy about it. The aqueduct was dynamited several times. Thus, they felt like they needed this dam to get them some reserve water just in case something happens to the aqueduct. So they ended up overfilling it several times, stressing the structure. The lesson from that, I think external things can affect your situation. When I talk about the Donner Party, I talk about the Mexican War. People don't realize we were at war with Mexico when the Donner Party occurred, which meant that they couldn't send out the usual search teams up to look for them because those men were off fighting the war. Every time they refilled the dam, cracks appeared. But Mulholland said, well, that's normal. Well, I don't know about you. I don't really think it's normal when the dam starts cracking. Cascade 5. The design was flawed, and here's a scary thing. There is a dam just exactly the same still in Los Angeles this day. The difference is that the Mulholland Dam, they've lowered the water level and they've backfilled it on the other side with a lot of dirt. He kept expanding the plan. He started out with an original plan and kept going more and more and more. A visiting engineer looked at it and basically, bluntly said, this dam, if kept filled for any length of time, will fail. Mulholland viewed this as a political thing. We do tend to ignore warnings. It's a staple of catastrophe. When I talk about the Challenger disaster, they were warned, and they literally hung up on the people warning them, saying, what do you expect us to do? The next to last disaster, Cascade, was constant instability wasn't addressed. Cracks kept appearing. There was seepage. Mulholland said, well, this is normal. A similar dam failed in Pennsylvania in 1911, killing 78 people. An engineer who looked at that one consulted with Mulholland, and again, he ignored it. The day before the dam failed, the dam keeper noticed the leak and called Mulholland, who drove up and looked at it and said it's safe. The dam keeper a little below, and the others, they had a joke. See you later if the dam don't break. And there's a lot of truth in humor sometimes. The lesson, sunk cost, and we don't see what we don't want to see. Many disasters occur because we really just don't want to look at potential things. Final event, the dam failed. Mulholland went back to Los Angeles, and the dam keeper went back to his house, and he and his family were the first ones killed. It was sudden and complete. All that was left was that image in at the very beginning. 12.4 billion gallons of water headed down that canyon. One piece of concrete weighing 10,000 tons was found a mile below the dam site. And in my Preparation Survival Guide, I talk about the force of water. Water is extraordinarily powerful. It has an exponential effect. You walk across 1 foot of water, it will wipe you out if it's moving fast. I talked about this. Here's where the dam is, Mulholland Dam. I'm looking there, Hollywood Bowl, Hollywood Wax Museum, Chinese Theater. It's pretty close to Hollywood. Final event. What did we learn? Well, even the construction of a significant project of one man. It takes a team to do something like this. California passed a new dam safety law after that. Mulholland did take full responsibility. There were rumors that in the last years of his life, he pulled out his teeth one by one with pliers. And he did say, if there was an error in human judgment, I was the human. I won't try to fasten it on anyone else. And that's all that remains of the San Francisco Dam. This story in more detail is free on my website, or if you use that QR code. Links to all my apps, web pages, and survival gear on my website. If you click on that box, it comes up, and there were direct links. Here are all my survival books. The Great Disasters is what this one is in. You can see all the different disasters I covered: Titanic, Little Bighorn, the rest. My little black books are designed to entertain and inform. I'm going to be putting those out every couple of months. They're a lot of fun. And here's my background.